So you may have read about it in a self-help book or heard about it in a TED Talk. A growth mindset is helpful at work, helpful at school, and also helpful at home. It's a constructive approach to failure where you see mistakes as merely opportunities for growth. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson wants you to teach this mindset to your kids. Great to see you, my purple friend.
You too.
No, we don't coordinate. It just happens more often than we realize. Growth mindset. Heather, I'm fascinated by this topic as you're going to apply it today to the home, because I've only heard it applied to the workforce or to our personal ambitions. What place does growth mindset have at home?
Well, growth mindset in and of itself, its opposition is a fixed mindset, right? So a growth mindset is, I can learn, I can gain knowledge, I can do different or better or healthier, right? Where a fixed mindset is, I came with all the knowledge I'm ever going to gain, and I can't actually improve that in any way.
That sounds depressing
It
when you
sounds
say it
very
like
depressing,
that.
right? And it also makes us feel like, why have any experiences if I came with everything and I can't grow in any way? What do my experiences provide for me? Now, the powerful thing about this, and we want a growth mindset everywhere, but home is the ideal place to teach it. Why? Because home should be the safest place. Home is safe, so our kids can make mistakes, they can have struggles, they can wonder about things. And at home, they should be accepted regardless of what their behavior is, regardless. So when our kids know that, it is an ideal place to teach them this mindset because they know they're always safe there, right? They can mess up at school or struggle there and come home, and they've got this team around them that says, regardless of what happens there, it doesn't change that we love you. And when we have that, we then can develop this growth mindset.
Ooh, that stirs something inside when you describe it like that. That's the home we all want. That's the parenting approach we all strive for. You've got some ways we can do that, promote that growth mindset you so beautifully and eloquently described for us. At home, first, teach emotions while they learn.
While they learn. Okay, so we are very quick to teach them how to learn, teach them about math, how to write a paper, what they should do in situations, how to drive as they become teenagers. We don't talk enough about the emotions that they're experiencing while they're learning.
Like talk to them?
Talk to them about it so they come to understand what emotions they're experiencing. So here's the thing. At any given moment when we feel uncomfortable emotions, our brain goes into a fight or flight or freeze, right? We've heard that for a long time, where our brain goes into protection mode. If it's doing its job, it wants to protect us from those things that are uncomfortable. We don't explain those things to our kids often. So they look at a situation and say, I didn't do very good on this math test. We don't talk about the emotions they're experiencing, so they think they're not very good at math or they're not a good student.
Emotions being the fight, flight, or freeze?
Emotions being, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel stupid, or that was hard, or I don't know how to do this, right?
But
all those emotions.
What's behind it?
Right, what's behind it. We want to weave emotions into their learning. We want them to understand that when they're sitting in front of a math test and they don't know how to do it, we want them to be able to recognize those emotions because they can do something with that.
So it doesn't become, I can't do it,
So,
it becomes, I feel helpless or frustrated.
Right, or it doesn't become, I'm no good at it, or I'll never get it. They don't recognize that the emotions are holding them back, right? Remember, a growth mindset is, I can learn. I can gain more experience that helps me do differently in this situation. And so when they're sitting there and they don't recognize the emotions, they don't know what to do next. And so they decide it means something negative about them.
So am I calling it out for them? You seem frustrated.
You can, absolutely, because they don't know the names either, especially if they're young. So to help them see, oh, you're frustrated, or why am I feeling this way? Well, I don't know how to do it, right? We've all had a kid sit at the counter frustrated with homework. And when we're not helping them understand the emotions behind it, they take the task and its difficulty and apply it to them. They make it about them not being enough. That shuts down an ability to have a growth mindset. Now it's a fixed mindset. I'm not smart enough. I can't learn this math. I can't do any different. The emotions help them understand that.
You want us to make mistakes a positive thing, which sounds fantastic. I need to know how we do that.
Yeah, so we're going to do that not only by speaking about them positively when our kids make them, which means we're not going to ever attach mistakes to their worth. Ever. We are going to, and absolutes are tricky, but we're going to try really hard to make this one an absolute. We don't want to ever tie mistakes to our kids being enough.
That looks like what?
It looks like when we're in situations not, again, implying that they're not good at something, but instead speaking about the behavior instead of about them, right? So for example, if they did poorly on an English exam, that we're talking about maybe improving the time that they spent researching or gaining new writing skills opposed to them not being good at something or they're no good at English. We're going to talk about the behavior of it. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about our mistakes and we're going to always include what we learned from them. So we're going to make sure that it isn't, here's where I messed up when I was your age or even now, but it's here's actually what I learned when I made mistakes.
Gotcha.
Can you see how it promotes that
Yes.
growth mindset?
Yes.
Now, here's what happens when we're not speaking to our kids this way. They tend to think that we never make mistakes and that we're perfect, and they don't know how to relate to that because they are making mistakes and they are learning and growing. So when they look at us and go, well, my mom's never messed up, they immediately go to, she doesn't understand what I feel or what I'm going through, which means anytime we try to give them any advice or teaching, they immediately disconnect from that.
Because mom doesn't get it. It circles back to that first observation that we want home to be safe. We want to be safe too.
Absolutely, so that it's safe for them to come to us with those things.
Yes.
We also want to make sure we ask really great questions.
Okay.
Now, when our kids make mistakes or when they're trying to improve in something or when they're struggling, often the questions sound like this. What's wrong with you? Why did you do it that way? How come you messed up? Why didn't you do better? Those are terribly uncomfortable questions. All of them put it back on our kids as not being enough, and nothing there will facilitate a growth mindset. They become very fixed in, this is about me. We want to ask questions like, what is your brain saying to you right now about this? We want to ask them, what part of this is hard, and what can we do with the part that is hard?
So curious questions, explorative questions,
Yes.
open-ended questions.
Not about them.
Not
being
about them.
enough,
Okay,
right?
okay.
We even want to look at them and say, has there been a situation where you've done something challenging? And they'll say, well, yeah, and they'll tell us what it is. And then we want to follow it up and say, what did you do to get through that? And now we've just shown them, oh, wow, you've done this a number of times.
Yeah.
So surely we can apply that and do it again.
There's a track record here.
Such different questions than, what's wrong with you? Or why didn't you do it differently?
You want us to give them challenges? Give us a quick line on that.
Yes, we want to give them challenges. So we've talked extensively about not removing challenges from them, right?
Right.
Lawnmower parenting,
Right.
all of that. We want to make sure that we leave the challenges in place and instead we teach them how to overcome them and teach them the skills they need to overcome them. Now, on top of this, it gets even bigger. There is this movement right now that when our kids get uncomfortable, we as parents step in and save them from those uncomfortable things. We give them excuses, we get them out of it. Lots of time that happens because we don't want to have to put the effort in to help them learn and get through it. Sometimes we do that because we were uncomfortable in those situations, and so we don't want to have to see them
You say this is a
uncomfortable.
movement. Where are you seeing this? In school, in sports?
Everywhere, society, everything is pushing this. You know, for example, a child is asked maybe in a religious setting to give a talk or a prayer. And they say, well, no, that makes me uncomfortable. And so very quickly parents say, no, they're uncomfortable. The answer is no.
Okay, now hold on. I'm going to take it a step further. They have anxiety.
They do have anxiety.
They're anxious.
Right.
You're saying we can help them work through that.
And we want to teach them. Now, I can hear the flack, right? And I can hear all the situations
why I said
where
it, and I didn't make you say
I
it.
know, I can hear it. And yet, if we know our children, we can look at them and say, maybe it isn't the talk or the presentation. Maybe we start to learn by doing something smaller to build up to that thing, opposed to, never mind, you never have to do
Closing
it
the door
or try
completely.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's at school with presentations. It's when they need to order their food at a restaurant and they're 15. Anxiety is real. All of those things are real. We're not talking about those situations. We're talking about these situations where we want to teach them the skills that they need in order to build up to where they want to head, opposed to just relieving them from any sort of challenges. We got to keep them in place, and then we got to hold their hand and teach them so they can figure out how to do it. As adults, they will need these skills.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that we don't remove the challenges.
Thank you for going there with me. I didn't mean to put you into a corner. 20 quick seconds. You want us to teach them about the brain, too.
Yes, and how it works so that they understand that it is a muscle. And the more we put it to work and the more we're persistent in that work, it grows strong.
Yeah.
You can look at your children, regardless of their age, even up to 18, and say, hey, your brain is a muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets, the more capable it becomes. They don't know those things. As parents, we don't often know those things. Be persistent, teach them to use it so that it gains strength, and they will see that there's nothing fixed about them, but instead they can continually be growing. And that happens at home. It does.
Cheers to a growth mindset. Thank you for helping us promote it. Heather counsels families and individuals. You can find her contact information on our website.